Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the AdviserTech Show. My name's Tessa Lee. I'm Managing Director of Moneyinfo, and I'm very, very delighted today to be joined by an old friend of mine from too many years ago to mention. I'm joined by Gary Shepherd, who's Business Development Director of Sprint. Hello, Gary. How are you doing?
Hi, Tess. Sorry, losing my voice already. Look, I'm getting all emotional about this. It's great to talk to you, and thanks for inviting me.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. And this could, we were just saying that this could go off on a horrible tangent of nostalgia, and we need to be careful to try and keep it on track so it doesn't end up all about us. But it's really good to have you on the AdviserTech Show today. So I always start by asking people to sort of tell us a little bit about kind of where your career today, how you got started in the world of technology and financial services, and was there anything pivotal that kind of shaped your career direction? And I know that we go back a long way, so I know a little bit of this, but for our audience, give us a bit of a potted history of Gary Shepherd and how you've ended up where you are now.
So funnily enough, I was thinking about this. It's made me think about this and sales. So I started at 18 selling Kirby vacuum cleaners. So that just shows how old I am. I still remember the Kirby song as well, which is really scary.
Are you going to sing it?
Song. So it was Hail, Hail, the gang's all here. Do you sell the Kirby? Yes, we sell the Kirby. And all the people that will know that, they're all really old like me now, right? But technology, I've always just played around with it. I've always just been involved with it. And in '93, I was thrown at the wall by Wings of Life as a direct sales. Enjoyed that and obviously got involved with the tech program that they were doing. Then went on to become an appointed rep of Norwich Union, and then went to become an IFA. And when I became an IFA, I was working for with a business up in Retford in Nottinghamshire. And that, I think the year before, that business it was mainly a general insurer. That's what they did, but they did a bit of life and pensions on the side. And the year before, I think they'd earned £9,000 in commission from life and pensions. A guy called Tim and I went into that business, and we had to go out and buy software and hardware. And the managing director of that practice went out to do it and didn't even know what a computer was. So I took over the purchase of that. And this is going back 486 years. It was, big towers and these big chunky screens and everything else. And he was buying Fairs software. And again, for anybody that's old enough will remember Fairs, it was always yellow, right? They were the ones who first really did brand, and their brand was yellow. And everybody knew if it was yellow, it was Fairs. And after I'd bought this hardware and software, I called them up, went, I enjoyed that, give me a job. So, and then that's where it started, 1995, selling Fair software, driving up and down the country with a full tower PC, screen, keyboard and mouse, because there were no laptops at that point.
No.
Scary, absolutely scary. I remember Jim McCauley, who was a colleague of mine at the time, used to do a lot in London, and he had to carry that all around on the tube. It was horrendous.
Yeah.
How he didn't get beaten up, I don't know, and it nicked. So that's where it started. Then went to we used to have all the exhibitions, and one of those was a money marketing show or something like that in London. And I remember that I'd stayed over the night before, and as usual, had way too much to drink. It was just a habit of what we did. Stayed in the bar till 2 or 3 o'clock, and got to the trade show in the morning, and I had to get up on a chair to adjust a light on the stand, and I fell off. And I just lay on the floor thinking, I'm just going to stay here all day now. People can talk to me while I'm down here. And as a certain person called Mr. Rory Curran walked and stepped over my head and went, I need to talk to you. I went, okay. And that's where that started. And actually, I was driving a couple of weeks later. Rory and I agreed to meet, but I was actually driving down to go and join O&M.
Oh, okay.
Graham and Jason, and I was literally just outside Bury St Edmunds when Rory called and said, "I want to see you. Can we get together at the weekend?" And I went, "I'm physically driving to go and sign contracts with O&M." And he said, "No, don't do that. Come and see me." So I drove down to Gatwick on the Saturday morning and started with Rory on the Monday.
Fantastic.
So
and I don't know how long after that I joined. Probably it was.
You were probably so that was 97.
It's probably more. I think I was at TL Clues, the advice firm, for a few years. It was probably either 99 or early 2000s, maybe.
I think you were 99 before.
Yeah, I think I was 99 when
you were there for the the big switch over to 2000. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I think I was. I think so. Yeah. Anyway, it feels like a lot. It is a lifetime ago, isn't it? It's a long time, but and to a sense, so much has changed, but not a lot's changed at the same time
funny,
in terms of.
Yeah, you talk to people today, and everybody you meet in technology, everybody remembers First Software, and it's spun off so much industry.
Yeah.
Right. So, all the consultancy services, Carmel Burke, Chris Page and Reeve, Jigsaw Tree, Sarah Chandler, there's a whole bunch of these people. Moneyinfo.
Yeah, exactly. We all cut our cloth at First Software, right?
We did. It's really funny. You go out now and talk to people, and they, I remember you from years ago. Or, oh, we just had Sim in, and it's actually Sim just sent me some pictures recently. They've had Sim and Anita have had their wedding photos redone, and he sent me one, and I showed it to the kids last night, and Russell's going, "Who is that?" That's your mother. No. So it's been a long time, and it's been really interesting, and it's just been about tech, and I think it's been great. Right.
And it continues to be great, right? It's always exciting. There's always something on the horizon. There's always stuff to do and things to improve and ways of working to make better, which is what I love about it, is the results you can get from tech. Yeah. And now you're at Sprint. And Sprint obviously has evolved as well over recent years, right? We've been integrated with you for the portfolio stuff for some time now, in terms of the reporting that you were doing with the Sprint technology, and then you've evolved Finio out of that because you were already doing so much of that data aggregation. It was a natural evolution, I'm sure, of the product. So that vision, talk about how that evolved and what are some of the most exciting things that kind of have come out of that, because I know you're doing great guns with it, and these are the types of things that can change the industry, right? So
yes. Yeah, well, it's funny, isn't it? Look, I was working with Voyant, right? So I went in to help Voyant. I knew Bob. I've known Bob, and everybody knows Bob at Voyant, but I know he's not there anymore. But I've known Bob for years, and I went and I did a bit of work with Bob. And on the list of people that had tried Voyant, because they had a free demo, you could just go online and download it and try it. There's a guy called Rory St Johnston. Now, Rory St Johnston was my reference site in 1998. And I saw his name on as a try list, and I called him up, and he went, "You know what's really funny?" He said, "I was talking about you yesterday." I went, "Rory, I haven't spoken to you for 15 years. How could you have been talking about me yesterday?" He said, "Well, we're trying to build this software solution called Fastrak, and it's a client reporting solution." I went, "That's never going to go anywhere, mate, right? Because the back offices have all got it, all the CRMs do it." No, he said, "Not like we're doing it." So I then go down and meet Rory, have a look at it, and it was one of those moments when you look at a piece of technology that somebody's starting to put together, and you go, "Well, surely somebody else is already doing that, right?" You haven't really found that gap where nobody's doing it, and he had. But basically, he was taking data out of Excel, taking it from platform, taking data from platform, putting it into Excel, running his own CIP, run his own investment committee with a bunch of local advisors. He had his Uber fund list, which was a buy, sell, hold, and it was really around rebalancing. But it was more around brand. Now, brand in those days, everyone thought brand was sticking your logo in the top left or bottom right hand corner.
Yeah.
And this isn't brand. This is everything from cover pages, headers, footers, the font. Everyone went, "Font? You mean I can have my own font?" Yeah. And then and the biggest one is tone of voice.
Yes.
So how do you talk to your clients? And the problem everyone's had in the past is that you've got a bit of software and it's generated something, but it's in tech speak. It's how that business thinks. This is how you describe something, and that's not what humans are. Advisors talk to clients in their own language.
Yeah,
they just do. I've got one firm that we work with. Their asset allocation is strategic, core, and cash. Now, you tell me where you can find anything on FE, on Morningstar, on Bloomberg, or anywhere that says strategic, core, and cash. It doesn't, right? But their clients all understand it because that's what they talk about.
Yeah.
So I just find it really, really fascinating getting advisors and really talking to advisors about what they want. What do they really want? right? Where do they really want to be? And trying to get that out of them.
Yeah. And we see similar, you know, for us, brand is really important, and it was more than just a logo and a color palette. And it's about giving the advice firm and the planning firm control over their client experience, right? That's what they want, which is, you know, why we don't, you know, they don't really want their clients logging into platforms to get this stuff. They want to have control over that client experience because it's core to their proposition and it differentiates them, doesn't it? It's about the relationships they build. And that's super interesting, because that kind of then evolved from that into what's now Finio today. And that, you know, for us, this is exciting because we're integrating with the Finio platform as well. But I've been and you kind of said it a little bit, I've been a great believer for quite some time that us tech providers, we can't do everything well. We can try and do everything, but we end up with quantity, not quality. And Fastrak illustrates that. They did something that was quite niche, but they do it really well. And there's room for all of us in this market. But what we've got to get to is an ecosystem where we are connecting more effectively than we've done. And I think that's changing. I think we're seeing more and more appetite between the players in the market to integrate more effectively. But that's really at the nub of what Finio is trying to achieve, right? Is to help us build out this ecosystem so that we can start to share data around the different technologies that your advice firm wants to use for your business because they work. And for you, it's Voyant and Moneyinfo and Xplan. And for you, it's Curo and CashCal and something else and Fastrak. It shouldn't matter. There's plenty of room for us all. What we've got to facilitate is better ways of working. And that's really where Finio is coming in.
Yeah, it is. But look, the biggest problem has been this, is that everyone has believed the data is theirs, right? So every technology partner has gone, it's my data, I'm never going to let you have it. I'm terrified. And the threat that they saw, or that they perceived that they saw, was that if I give my data out and I make my data available to another system, then potentially you'll move away from me and go to another system. So I'm not going to let you have that data. And that came to the CRMs, you know, the advent of the web-based applications became a problem, because when it was desk-based and it was a CD that people ran and they ran their own servers.
I remember going around businesses all over the country, putting that CD-ROM in the drive and doing an install.
What did it mean? It meant the data was on your PC. Therefore, you could do whatever you wanted with it. When it went to web-based, of course, you couldn't get access to that. So, I mean, it was interesting. Look, we started off as a client reporting solution, very niche. We went out and built 23 point-to-point connections, and we had a bit of hindsight. I've been doing this at that point for nearly 20 years, and recognised that, to be completely blunt, the data in most people's back office is just utter and total rubbish, right?
Yeah,
because it only knows what it knows. So everybody would go, you got to enter Mrs. Miggins. So you enter the client, you enter the policy, you press a button, and you go off and get a valuation, right? No, when we started this, two things. One, when we started Sprint, let's not rely on anything in the back office. Let's just treat it all as rubbish. So therefore, we have to go off and get that data. And two, let's just try and show people what you can do with good quality data. Fast forward 9 years from when we started, we had a couple of really interesting conversations. A cash flow modeler called me up one day I knew and said, look, I've just built an integration with someone, with a platform. He said, it was absolutely horrible. It's not what I want to do. Why can't you just give me the data? Because I know you've got it. The second is, when we went to these platforms, we went to them on the basis of, look, we don't care what you give anybody else. We're not interested in you formatting it into any style or shape or any standards. Just give us everything that you've got. We'll figure it out. Hence, we now have platforms today that deliver, for one portfolio for a client, can deliver us 12 files at 3 different times a day in 3 different formats, right? Just to make up a client's portfolio. So we then started to get all this transaction level data. Fast forward that now, as I say, to about 4 years ago, and Mark Paulson did the Disconnected World, and he really started talking about this, and it started to twig. We then started to get platforms calling us up going, look, we're getting hit by people saying, we want data and we want transaction data. And they're going, No, no, don't want to do that, because the support burden is going to be huge. We have 300 transaction types. They change constantly. We don't even know what they are, right? So we can't support 19 or 20 third-party solutions asking for that data. So what happens if we gave it to you? What about if you did it? So we as a platform connect to one, and then you pass that out to everybody else. And can you do our support on it as well? So that's where and the fact that we knew their data and still now know their data. And great examples. There's a platform out there. Let's say you'll see a transaction type and it says it's a buy of 10,000 units of Henderson Emerging Markets. That's great because they've logged it, but there's nothing in the cash account. And you go, what did you do? Sprinkle fairy dust on it? Right? How did the client buy that? Something must have come out of the cash account in order to purchase that. So we don't just get data, we reconcile, we clean, we normalize it across everything, and that's really where it came from. So it's just this whole thing around bad data. It's a bit like, I can't say it now because I haven't got it, but it's like a bad haircut. It stays with you for a long time, and then you keep making the same mistake and going back to the same hairdresser.
But what do you think's changed here? Because you mentioned a minute ago that you're able to show what good quality data can achieve. And for me, it's an interesting one because you and I both go back to the 1990s with this. And even today, firms still haven't got their back office data in order. And for me, one of the reasons for that is that there's never been a momentum to do so, right? Because typically the one time I think for advice and planning companies want to get their data absolutely spot on is when they're putting it in front of a client. So you gave them that momentum with Fastrak.
Yeah.
We've given them that momentum with Client Portal because suddenly Mrs. Miggins can see it 24/7.
Yeah.
But off the back of that client experience, which gives you, because typically that would be done at review, right? Yeah. Back in my day, we'd all race around phoning up the providers for valuations to get the report done for the review. But off the back of that momentum for the client experience, you then get the benefits of that data for business in terms of managing that business, reporting on that business, understanding what's profitable and what's not, understanding, where your inflows and outflows are actually coming from. And that must enable businesses that embrace this concept of getting their data right. It must pay huge dividends in terms of the wider business benefits aside from the client experience.
It does, but here's the problem. The problem is down to the CRM, and you can't blame the CRM systems. Whether it was Fairs, whether it was Advisor Office, whether it's any of the newer ones. Advisors simply don't use those systems.
Yeah.
Most administrators will tell you we don't let our advisors log in because I don't want them messing up anything. Okay, so advisors now use cash flow. So if you now go and look in cash flow, you'll find that the cash flow is absolutely up to date. It's got everything the client might have. Problem, cash flow doesn't ask you. You could just put in that Mrs. Miggins has got a GIA, an ISA and a SIP. You don't have to tell it it's a Transact GIA, an ISA, and it's an AJ Bell SIP. You don't have to tell it that. It doesn't need a policy number.
It doesn't care.
No, it doesn't. All it wanted was the latest value. So now you've got even worse data because it's now completely generic. And it could be a GIA with anybody, an ISA with anybody, and nobody knows what it is. So the back offices simply haven't got it. We're just doing an exercise, and we're going to probably talk about what the future look like and where are we going. One of them is around contributions and withdrawals. The reason it's not in the back offices is because you can't do anything with it. So what's the point of putting in, manually entering all this data, and you go, whoa, what am I going to do with it? Okay. I can't do anything with that. It doesn't help me in my business in any way, shape or form. So I don't bother, right? I might do it for the odd one, but really, it might be my top 10 clients, but the rest I just can't be, I'm going to say something else. I just can't be bothered with it. And that's what we find. So there's now this gap coming up and people are going, right, I need to understand my business better. And I want to get better at what I'm doing, but I don't know how. And then you've got the fear of technology. I've got my tech stack that's got 15 different bits of tech, which is great, right? It is great because now people have recognized niche. And actually, if we go with this, it does this one job, but it does it brilliantly, right?
Yeah.
Better than, look, we came from a system that you turned it on in the morning and then it was the last thing you turned up at night, and it did everything. We did. But you could be a mortgage advisor in First Software. You could be a protection advisor. You could be a general IFA. You could just do a group scheme business. You could be discretionary, all in one system, and it did everything. Right?
Yeah.
Don't do that anymore. They still do, but they don't do it very well.
Yeah.
So that's why everyone's going out now and they're looking at that. But then you've got this issue. Right now, I can tell you, we bring in to our client port, into our data hub, Finio. We bring in 32 billion of assets every day, but we push out 35 billion because Mrs. Miggins's GIA, ISA, and SIP is needed in at least 4 systems.
Yeah.
So we're getting that one piece of data in, and then the CRM wants everything, right? Cash flow doesn't want everything; it just wants the latest value, and maybe the flows, what went in, what went out. So you're pushing out the same policy to multiple places, and we all know that advisors are constantly rekeying. But trying to get people to understand that data is the most important thing in their business, it's. I suppose I'm a great one for analogies, and my latest one is that why buy an electric car if you haven't got any electric?
Yeah,
because you can have a great Tesla sat on your drive, but if you got no power, then you ain't going anywhere, are you?
Yeah,
and that's really where we are today, and I think that recognition is starting to twig now, and that's where really Finio came from. It came from platforms asking us to distribute. It's come from third-party solutions recognizing that yes, we've always built point-to-point connections, and the new entrants in the market coming in have got no connections. And what we did when we built it, we thought, okay, when we started as a business with Fastrak, what would we have wanted? We'd have wanted multiple platforms in the same format. So it doesn't matter whether it's Transact, Nucleus, James Hay, Raymond James, 7IM, don't care.
Yeah.
I just want it really simple, homogenized across them all, normalized data sets. I might have blank columns, don't care, right? Because not everyone's going to give me everything, but I want everything to be exactly the same. I want it in our format. I want it in JSON, XML, PSV, CSV. Yeah. I want it. How do I want it delivered? Oh, well, we prefer SFTP pull. Okay. Or do you want, or we prefer SFTP push, or we want to use a REST API. So what would we have wanted when we started our business, when we wanted data? And that's where I think it's where the future is. The future is absolutely data. I mean, it is the new oil it's the oil of the 21st century. There's no question. But I think trying to get some of the established players to understand that is an interesting one, right? Because you've got the, well, we've always built it this way. Okay. Yeah, that's what the dinosaur said. We've always built it this way. Actually, why not have one connection? Why does anybody want to go off and build individual point-to-point connections when you go, well, I can just get one? If I could get one that gave me 12, that's 12 connections I haven't got to manage.
Yeah.
Because it's not building any connection, it's managing it.
Yeah.
And when it comes to transactions, I can tell you that, so we know from Fastrak and what we do, our platforms give us over 3,000 transaction types. Of them, we know only 1 in 50 is an inflow or an outflow. The rest is noise. Now, we've had to work that out. Nobody's told us. The platforms, when it comes in data, it'll say backs payment out £132 to Gaudi SIP. And you go, and what's that then? Right? You assume backs payment out being paid to the client. Mrs. Miggins is getting some. No, it's what? It's an inter-wrapper it's a payment for a third-party SIP inside the platform. Now, that's what we do. So you don't have to worry about it as a third-party solution, right?
Because but technology also shouldn't be an advice firm problem, should it? It should be an enabler, and it should be, we should be managing that on behalf of our clients so that they can focus on.
More advisors want to do more, right? And that's the really interesting thing, and that's because of the limitations of the tech that they have. So especially if your CRM should be your golden source of truth. It should have everything in it. Fact is, it doesn't. Therefore, if I can get all of my data outside and I can put it in Power BI, I can maybe use Excel and pivot tables, and then I can do my own MI. We've got advisors now where we're pushing data to them. They've taken on data analysts. And these are firms with 7 or 8 advisors. That's it. And you've taken on a data analyst. Yeah. It helps them decide where their business is going to go in the future.
Yeah.
Right. So, right, I can tell you that we've got 300 clients up in Edinburgh. We've got one advisor down in Newcastle, and he hasn't got an administrator. We need to open an office in Edinburgh. We need to take. How do you know that if you haven't got your data?
Yeah. And that Microsoft stack piece is important as well, right? And interesting, because there's not a firm I speak to that doesn't use it.
Yeah.
Things like Power BI are hugely powerful.
Yeah.
Why do I need to reinvent something when I can access the data to pull it into something like that? And I think as tech providers, for me, our roadmaps are not just about what we build. It's what we don't build and what we integrate with, because we're not going to displace Microsoft from a business. And they've worked out pretty good ways to do, this stuff. They've put millions into it. So let's facilitate the ability for firms to use that.
And let's just make it easy for them. Let's just make it easy for them. That's the point.
And is this, because for me, this ecosystem is just broadening now. We're seeing firms using all sorts of different pieces of technology, and they're not necessarily financial advice, planning, wealth management pieces of technology. They're generic technologies, whether it's project management stuff, HubSpot stuff, booking things, Microsoft. It could be a video kind of solutions to allow them to communicate with their clients in different ways. We're seeing all of that being started built into the ecosystem because it just gives a better experience for advisor and for client. And is this how do you see kind of things evolving over the next few years? There's the whole AI piece, and data is key to AI. It's the foundation for good AI, right? That must be on your radar.
Yeah, well, look, I can tell you, I talk to one new TPS, third-party solution signer provider every week. One new one, and you go, where did you come from, right? Yeah. And they're all doing something new, and it's great. I likened it the other day to, it's like the gold rush, right? In the out in California, I was trying to figure out the other day whether, and I don't know how to find this out, whether there's more tech for financial services than any other small segment. And put this in context, there are 5,500 advisory firms of financial advice firms, and I know there are at least 170 tech providers out there.
Yeah.
That's does the solicitors have the same? Do accountants?
I doubt it, because they like to write letters, don't they? To be fair, solicitors.
Go down the accountant. My father-in-law's an accountant. Don't even go there. He has a typewriter, and they have a backup typewriter.
Yes.
They actually have a backup. It's serviced every year. Oh yeah, absolutely. Serviced every year. Lovely people, but really weird. But then they're my in-laws, and they have been for 33 years. Well, I allow them that. They've had to put up with me for 33 years. So they've done well. But no, it is really interesting. I listen to all this talk about AI, and we hear this all the time, and you go, that's really interesting. Where's he going to get his data from? Right? Because you've got to feed it something. And you can't feed it off your back office data, can you? Great example, talking to a consolidator recently on a platform. If they go to platform, they've got 760 million AUM. Their back office has 700 million AUM. And you go, I'm sorry, you've lost 60 million. He went, yeah, no idea where it is.
Wow.
We haven't got it. And I went, how are you running a business? Because your MI is it's gone, right? I had a mate of mine who was managing director of one of the networks call me up and said, you know what, guys, we've got 150 advisors. I couldn't tell you what their AUM is. I couldn't tell you if it's going up, going down. I couldn't tell you if they're any good at their job in any way, shape or form. No idea. We just haven't got the data.
And if you don't have that, not only can you not get that information, you can't then start benefiting from all these fabulous tools that are coming out, right? Because you're right, you can't feed it the wrong stuff, otherwise the output's just going to be utter rubbish.
It's a bit like years ago, one of our very, very early clients for Fastrak said something to me that just resonated with me completely. He said, if I've got a client that's got 10 wrappers, they've got 10 policies, and I'm going to produce a report for them for their annual review. If the value on one of those policies is wrong, I can't give him the report. That's how detailed and how just how the responsibility of the advisor in getting the right data to the right people at the right time.
Yeah.
And how are they going to do that without something like a data hub? And there are others out there in the market. There are not really good, but sorry, I didn't say that out loud. But there are. But without good quality data, I don't know how these firms are running their business, but then advisors, it's this thing, isn't it, where everyone thinks, look, I can log in on platform today and I can produce all these great reports. I can see history. I might be able to do, my capital gains. I might be able to do time-weighted returns. Surely, what's the problem with that then, right? Because surely if they're going to give somebody the data, they're going to give them that. No, they're not. No, they're not. What you see on most platforms is held together with sticky tape and plasters. What comes out the back end that they would pass to somebody is 12 different files at 3 different times a day in 3 different formats.
And so how do you see that evolve? Do you think we'll get to a place, we're both, 25 plus years into this. Where are we going to be in the next 5? Is it, for me, I think the pace of change is starting to accelerate. Yeah. Is it accelerating in the right direction? Are we going to see this come to fruition? Yeah.
So, again, they don't like it, but I've always likened platforms to go into an AA meeting, right? They're all there, but nobody's going to stand up and go, I've got a problem. Actually, they're doing that now. They're recognizing that it's fine. Yeah. My integrations are easy. It's easy. And after 3 years, they go, actually, no, it really isn't. Can you do it? And the thing is, they haven't had an option, right? It's not like there's really been an alternative to physically for them to go, I can just build one API. That's it. Let them do it. And they manage everything. They'll connect it to all these new startups. And that's a big problem, right? Because there's literally all these new startup firms are all coming in going, I want data. They're going to the platforms and saying, I want data. And the platforms are going, who are you?
Yeah.
Right. So what? You've got 2 clients. And I'm not going to build you an integration because you wouldn't expect them to. And they shouldn't. They don't have to. They just simply, platform gives us the data. We'll deal with all of that. We'll deal with the firm when there's only 1 of them or 2 of them. And they've only got 3 clients. That's fine. We'll provide them with the data. So I think where we're going is that everyone's starting to recognize that they've had a problem, and they're trying to do something about it. Yeah,
I think that's, and we're seeing that. I think we're seeing it, and I've said for a long time now, technology integration isn't necessarily about the technology. It's actually more about the people and the cultures of those businesses and having the appetite to do something and to make a change. And I think we're seeing a real shift now in the industry, particularly with the platforms, to want to do, and a realization that we don't have to be all things to all men.
Absolutely.
There is a place for us. There is a place for back office practice management, portal, data. We're all cash flow systems. We're all going to fit into this ecosystem. What we need to do is be open, because we're not going to beat them at that, because they do it on purpose. We do this on purpose. Let's get this as great it can be, and then we can. So I think you're right. I think there's a real positive. I think it's going to take some time. I don't think, in 12 months' time we're going woohoo, we're there.
Well, we won't be going woohoo, we're there, but we're going to be going woohoo. Wow, that's another 3 platforms off that list.
Yeah.
Right? We're seeing. So right now we have 7IM, Raymond James, Wealth Time Classic as of today, because we rename as of today. So they'll make a note that I got it right. Wealth Time Classic. Transact, we've just done the remuneration files, which again, right, let's not go down old open text EDI commission, right? And how old that is, that all needs redoing, because there's a whole bunch of platforms that don't do that. So that's going to change in the next 12 months. You've got things such as not just the remuneration files, but there's a whole conversation around these inflows and outflows and what's going to happen with contributions and withdrawals. How do we get them into the back offices? How do we get them in the first place, right? How do we recognize what's an inflow, what's an outflow? There's inter-platform transfers as well. Lots of conversations going on. Look, re-reg is a massive problem. People always say, well, if you can handle, could you help me with re-reg? Well, if I could, I would have bought Barbados. I wouldn't be sat on the beach. I would have bought it, right? MiFID and fees. Another one. Everyone always asking, how can you help me with that? If I could, I wouldn't be sat here, mate. I'd have sold up and gone, right? Because everybody wants it. So there's a lot going on that is going to happen, and it's really starting to come to fore now.
Yeah, there's a momentum, isn't there, building?
It's coming to it's becoming important to the right people in those businesses.
Yeah.
Right, because before that, it was very much, that's not really a problem, is it? Well, I'm not really hearing that. Now they're hearing it.
Yeah.
Right, it's impacting business. I'm going to move from you to you because you don't give me the data I need. Oh, really? That's an issue. Didn't realise that was an issue. Well, I've been asking for you for 5 years. You just haven't been listening. right? That's going to be the difference.
It's good. And it's good, you know, that, I mean, we're nearly at the end of the time for today, but it kind of gives us a positive note to end on, because I think for all the problems and challenges in the industry, I think there is a momentum for change now. And not only a momentum, we're not just talking about it, we're doing it, aren't we? We're starting to see those connections. You mentioned Transact with remuneration. They've done some brilliant things with us recently as well, to automate the delivery of documents and more data. And, you know, they're a great example of a platform that's been in the industry for a long time and has, you know, listened and heard, and it's now
done their own thing, right?
Yeah,
absolutely. Historically, that's not, we don't need to go outside, and there comes a point when you go, actually, why build, right? Why build it ourselves? There's somebody here already doing it.
Yeah,
let them do it for us.
Yeah. And everybody can be successful. So look, leave us with a closing thought. Leave us with a Gary closing thought for the day. We're on a Friday afternoon at the moment. People might be listening to this on a Monday. Hopefully it'll cheer you up. But on a Friday afternoon, what are you excited about? You kind of, what's next? What's your sort of closing thoughts? And also tell people how they can get in touch, and if they want to find out more about the brilliant stuff that you're doing at Sprint Technologies with Fastrak and Finio.
Right. So I think the biggest thing is just open your eyes, right? Yeah. I think everyone's going around like this, and you can't help it. You know, it's wood for trees, whatever the analogy you want to use. But everyone's been walking around. Everyone's really, really busy, and it's really, really difficult to actually step back. And it needs to be the people that are really, really busy. It needs to be those people that are engaged in it every day. They're the ones that need to step back, because they're the ones that are going to go, actually, that could save me and my team this, or it could allow me to deliver this. And I think that's really important. People need to just step back and go, right, what is it? The biggest thing that they need to do is just stand back and go, what do I want? Right? Yeah. Actually, where do we want to be? Not even, you could do a 3 month, 6 month, 12 month, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. But what do I need today? What's going to make my life better? What's going to make me be able to go and play more golf? Right? I want to play more on the golf course. How do I do that? I don't want to work on Fridays. How do I do that? What is it? And that's something that is a tough one to do.
Yeah.
For the future, for us, it's absolutely all about, you know, where the trajectory is upwards with the data hub. You know, we are expecting more platforms. I spoke to an advisor this morning. I spent 20 minutes with an advisor this morning, and he went, I just can't think of anything else I'd want to do now but take data from you. Because it just makes, he said, in fact, I'm going to go out now and find someone to do the development for me. Because it just makes sense, right? You're going to give me everything I haven't got. He said, I've been sat here moaning about it for years. One conversation with you, 20 minutes later, and I'm going, oh, okay, that means I can do what I want to do.
Yeah.
My future now looks brighter.
Yeah.
So I think that's really it. I mean, getting hold of us, go to sprintenterprise.co.uk. There's a button on there that says book a call. Nobody does a contact us form anymore because nobody can be bothered. Just literally book a call straight into my diary, and I'm happy to spend time talking to you. If I can't help you, then maybe I'll know somebody that can, right? So, but more than happy to do that, and love talking to advisors and finding out what they're doing. Then these new TPSPs are fantastic. Love these, TPSPs, third-party suppliers, so solution providers. I'm one. Fastrak, you're one, Tessa.
Yeah.
So there's some great new ones coming out, and we love talking to them and finding out what people are doing. And we're happy to feed them data.
Fantastic. Well, look, from the 1990s through the legendary First Software Quarterly Do's to still being working with you today, it's an absolute pleasure, and I'm delighted that we're still in touch and we were able to do this podcast today. So thank you so much for your time, Gary, and I'm sure we'll be having another letter again soon. But thank you so much.
No, thank you for having me on, and hopefully I haven't bored everybody to death.
Not at all. Not at all. Absolutely brilliant. Thanks a lot, Gary.
Thanks, Tess.